So I'm going to be going through 3 very important things you got to get crystal clear on. And I'm going to actually just show you tools. I don't have slides put together. I'm going to show you legitimate tools that law firms are using right now to get clear on some things. But the first thing I want to start with is a story. And, because I live in Philadelphia, there's a guy who lived here too, who saw himself inspiring millions of people as a lead actor. That was his clear outcome. Gets into acting. Everyone said his voice sounded dumb. His face looked weird. He was thrown out of agents' offices, 1,500 of them in New York City. He actually got 3 movies as a thug because they wanted to see him get beaten up. The directors thought the audience would only want to see him get beaten up. And he was starving. He literally couldn't pay for heat, but he refused to get a job. Refused, because he didn't want a backup plan. One day, after failing at acting, he goes to the library and reads a Edgar Allan Poe book, right? And he says, okay, maybe I can inspire people by writing. Maybe it's time to pivot. So he goes and he writes his first screenplay. And that screenplay, he sold for $100 a few weeks later. It was the highlight of his life. And he thought it was such a big deal. And things with his wife were bad, because money was still bad, because he's celebrating about $100, the only money he's made in a couple months. And the worst day of his life, he had one friend left, not his wife, his dog. Worst day of his life, he goes down to the gas station at the corner with his dog. And he holds his dog in his hand, soliciting to sell his dog for his last penny. And he put in the first bid at $50, right? And someone offered him half of that, $25, to buy his dog. And he sold his best friend for $25. So he leaves there days later at his lowest point of all lows, which the reason I'm telling this story right now is because there was so much uncertainty. At the lowest point of his life, he puts on a fight with Muhammad Ali. He watches that fight. He felt inspired. 20 hours after watching that fight, he has an entire script written, the entire movie, shaking with excitement. He carries the script, says, "This is my script." The agent said it was typical, sappy, not going to do anything. And he wrote down actually all of these criticisms that people had on a sheet, and he actually read them the night of the Oscars when he won to the audience. He kept trying to sell it. Months go by. Someone offers him $125,000. Okay? This is someone who had nothing in his bank account. But they say you can't be the lead actor in it. He says, nope. He was clear on his outcome. His outcome, I am an actor inspiring millions. Okay? So he turned it down. 2 weeks go by. They double the offer, $250,000. He says, nope. $250,000 for him to not act in it. $325,000 2 weeks later. You can't act in the movie, though. He says, nope, sorry. This is someone with no money in their bank account. Crystal clear on his outcome, right? So they settle. A couple weeks later, they say, okay, $35,000 we'll pay you. We'll give you a percentage of sales in the movie, and you can act your part. We don't really have faith in this. He says, okay, I'll take it. So he takes that $35,000, and that movie is called Rocky. And that movie ended up doing $200 million in sales. $200 million in sales, because he had faith towards his outcome. 3 days after that, he stood out front of that gas station before the movie did $200 million. And he waited to find the guy he sold his dog to. 3rd day, standing there, sunrise to sunset. He stands there and he says, I'll give you 4 times what you gave me for my dog. The guy's, $100. The guy says no. He says $1,000. The guy says no. He says $15,000 I'll give you, and I'll give you an acting spot in the movie. Give me my dog. He was clear on his outcome. He got the dog. So the reason I start with this story is because right now is the time for us to get crystal clear on our outcomes. So my main question to everyone listening right now is, what is your movie script that you're going to write right now? the script for the next 9, 12, 18, 24 months of your law firm. And how much conviction are you going to have in that script? Would you turn down someone's offer for that script for $500,000, $1 million, $2 million? Would you say, nope, sorry, this is my script. Sorry, not giving it up, right? So that's the one big thing I wanted to get across, because sometimes at our lowest point, our greatest strategies and plans come to us. For me, I know that that's what happened when I started this company. 10 years after my family went bankrupt, and my dad almost committed suicide when I called him after not talking to him for 2 years. I had this fuel to never create the pain that I felt going through a recession and going bankrupt. Fast forward to the day I won top sales rep at a company called YP out of 3,000 sales reps with no experience. I quit. It was 3 days after I won that award, because I felt success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. You win at something, but you feel like trash because you don't believe in what you won at, right? And that day, when I quit my job, I randomly resigned. The plan for this company, SMB Team, I'm 28 years old, guys. The plan for this multi-million-dollar company went through my mind. Everyone thought I was crazy for leaving a job to create this company. But I saw it all crystal clear. I saw we do millions of dollars of sales in our second year. I knew how many clients we'd have, employees, 3,000 square foot office space, huge overnight success, legal marketing brand. I kept writing down, I saw all of this. So my question to you again is, what is the screenplay you're going to write? Because now's the time to write it out and get crystal clear, because you ready? We will not get the opportunity of extreme uncertainty like this again. The opportunity of extreme uncertainty. We may never get it again, maybe for 100 years. But from massive uncertainty, that is where the greatest plans and strategies form. So now's the time to get crystal clear. So I'm going to zoom this conversation into marketing, sales, and operations. Because if you don't have your business right, your law firm, everything else is harder, right? If you're not making money, if you're not getting the right number of leads, if you're not clear on, your intake process, your sales process, everything else crumbles. You will suffer. So write your own version of Rocky for your law firm. And what I'm saying here is I'm going to give you some very good tools and tactics that I follow to do this, okay? So standards should be numbers. If it's not a number, it's not measurable, and therefore it's not a standard. So I'm going to go right through and show you the things that we set standards for at our company. And I have all these tabs open up, which I'm super excited about. First things first, check this out. Okay, this is our 2020 target sheet. The theme of this year for our company is this is the year of order and execution for us. We have our core challenge. How can we build order, sustainability, kick-ass team dynamics to make improving our product quality, expanding our brand, increasing lead flows fun as heck? We create a sustainable business model, systems, team dynamics that produce 4.35 million in sales, 30% margins. We have operations targets. We want 2x the results of our competitors. And we want to do that by spending 2 times the amount of time in the accounts that we manage for marketing. The first thing I wanted to go through is how to set your marketing standards by deciding on your prime metrics. Again, it's not a standard. It's not a script if there's not a number tied to it. So by the end of this year, I will have done 720 Facebook stories. I'll have done 192 LinkedIn posts, 192 YouTube videos. I'll have 20,000 Instagram followers. I'll get 30 tier 2 clients, which I've identified from my Google Ads campaigns, 2,000 downloads from Facebook. I will get 36,000 people to register for these webinars. We're already more than a third of the way there. 20,000 on my email list, 16 blog posts, 16 podcasts. All of these things you can write out right now for your law firm. While there's this opportunity of extreme uncertainty, you can get crystal clear on your outcomes. The outcomes, you'll put a stake in the ground and you'll say, these are my outcomes. I don't care what happens for the remaining 8 months of the year. I will make sure I accomplish X, Y, and Z. But you can't just keep this to yourself. Step 2 is you have to communicate this to your team. And then step 3 is you have to schedule something to make it real, right? So this is our marketing standards and prime metric sheet. The next thing is, now is the time to clarify your unique selling propositions, both as a law firm and for the services you provide as a law firm, right? If you're a small law firm, your unique selling proposition should be like, we will roll up our sleeves, get dirty, and be on call. If you're a bigger law firm, your unique selling proposition changes to systems, predictability, numbers, right? We have everything down to a science. We have relationships. The unique selling proposition changes as you grow, right? So I'm going to show this one more time. The next thing is, what is your USP per service, right? Sometimes you have a foot in the door service you offer as a lawyer. Other things you offer as a value add, right? Things you want to be a differentiator with, right? So the next thing is, once you set your marketing standards and metrics and you identify your unique selling proposition, you need to know how to communicate that. So this is actually how I craft my talks. You're hearing me talk right now. I always start with an opening heart story. I always try to roadmap. Hey, I'm going to go through 3 things. I then go through the content section of my speech. Then I go through each of these sections in detail. There's a call to action always at the end, right? And I always finish with a closing heart story. Now is the time to create your speech for your unique selling proposition, okay? The next thing is, how are you going to productize your knowledge? This is a guy, White Collar Advice, sells $1,000 courses for criminal defense for people who can't afford a white collar lawyer, and productizes his knowledge in information. Now is the time people are consuming this stuff, okay? And then the next tip, once you systemize your marketing, the next tip is, how are you going to systemize your sales process and standards for the year-end 2020? Well, here's how we did it. I have an entire sales training university that I made for my team so I could be replaceable on sales calls. We have videos on the 10 commandments you need to follow when you're on every call, positivity, how to have the right attitude. We have exact documents on our sales process, right? This is the time to be making these scripts. I have rules for how we handle inbound leads, okay? I have rules for how we close deals. I have closing lines, okay? Are the people answering your phones just collecting information and then scheduling for them to come into the office 2 weeks later, and then they, hear from another lawyer and then never talk to you again? Your sales process is so important to systemize right now, right? You need follow-up scripts. How do you follow up with the leads that went dark, who reached out to you, you qualified them, then they don't, they never talk to you again. So you need to systemize your sales process. So we went through first how to create your targets for marketing, right? Then we said, okay, how are you going to systemize your sales process, right? And then lastly is, how are you going to systemize your operations side, okay? So meaning, what are you going to give up? Most of you guys are law firm owners. The most important thing isn't what you're going to do in operations. The most important thing is, what are you going to let go of? And what are you going to give someone responsibility to take over within your law firm?